Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Charlene. Good evening, Questboard Terrain, Campaign Terrain, Scatter Terrain, and the end. Good to see you. And our lovely guests today are Bodhi and Tom from Homie and the Dude. How are you, gentlemen?
Very good.
Dude, stoked to be here. Super stoked to be here and to talk to yourself. Very much looking forward to this one today.
Yeah, same. I mean, I've been looking through your material for Scorched Basin. It's looking amazing.
Thanks, and I appreciate that. You know, we're in a little bubble when we're in our creation space. So sometimes when you get feedback from the outside, it first of all, it's kind of surprising. We're like, oh, well, people are seeing it, and they actually like that.
Someone cares? Wow.
So yeah, no, very much appreciate it. Thanks, Karl.
Hey, so how about you start by telling us a bit about yourselves and how you got into this whole publishing business and things like that?
Oh, dude, it was a very standard journey, you know. It was pretty. No,
yeah, we read about it in a book, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. We were like, oh my god, we both attended university and studied publishing TTRPG books.
No, it was a dot-to-dot progression. Wasn't it?
No, so basically we started off originally. So by the way, we're father and son. And we started off in COVID doing a podcast where we were basically interviewing all manner of people, whether it was like Olympians, wingsuiters, stuntmen, like musicians, all manner of stuff. We interviewed crazy people basically and had an awesome time doing that for a while. However, after some time doing that, Tom discovered Acquisitions Incorporated, the amazing actual play or podcast as it originally was, but we found their live shows that they do at PAX in probably the 2015, 2016 kind of age, and they were just incredible. And Tom showed them to me, and we were both just like, wow, look at how freed up these guys are. Look how much fun they're having. They're telling a story that's really super interesting, and we started right in the middle, so we didn't know anything about the characters, but we're still here after an hour of watching. Crazy. And so we just fell in love with it, and we started playing D&D ourselves. We picked up the starter pack to 5e, which at the time was Lost Mines of Phandelver, and we did that and had a really great time playing that. And from there, kind of progressed, realized that we wanted to make some D&D content, so we started making an actual play in a homebrew world that I had, and we did lots of awesome stuff along that kind of path as we were going up. But slowly, eventually, we just realized that we wanted to see if we could make something more than just a hobby out of this, and so my homebrew world was a world of floating islands. If you imagine Avatar, not the last airbender type, but the blue people type, the giant floating rocks that they have, that kind of vibe. And I needed a way for us to get from island to island, and I was like, airships and things like that makes the most sense. And so I dove deep into all the different mechanics that we have for 5e currently, like Ghost of Saltmarsh, Descent into Avernus, Star Wars 5e, Wildjammer, the old Spelljammer supplements for earlier versions of D&D, all that kind of stuff. And there just wasn't anything really out there. Spelljammer came out for 5e, and it was just atrocious and was really bad. And so I was just like, okay, I want to write my own mechanics. I want to come up with some stuff. And from there, Sky Zephyrs, our first book that we published, kind of began developing from that point. And that's kind of how we found ourselves to making third-party content or supplements, as people call it.
And in the span of less than 6 years, so talk about jumping into the deep end.
Yeah, exactly. Straight into the deep end.
I think we started in May of 2020 or 2021, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah,
and from what I'm seeing here, the people in the chat have already been seeing stuff about Scorched Basin, and really curious about it.
Amazing. I'm glad that they are enjoying it and that they've seen some stuff. I'm glad it's reaching folks out there, because the community like yourself have been so incredible to spread it in as far as wide as it has been. So we super appreciate that.
Yeah. So the setting is essentially, and I'm seeing the chat as well. The setting is Mad Max and Dune inspired. It is a meteor crash site that created a basin that's about 1,500 miles wide. And so from a player or a GM perspective, you can either have your existing world have that crash site appear in your existing world and have your players go into it and experience it. And we'll talk a little bit about what they would find experiencing it. There's a map of, kind of a zoomed out version of 1,500 miles across of what the basin looks like. Or you can run an entire campaign in it. It is dense enough with, it's got 5 tribes, it has vehicles, it has 6 different terrains,
loads of key locations dotted all over the map. Yeah, it's super expansive. While then also you could run an entire campaign just in the Kai Bastion alone. Or you could travel the entire basin.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's interesting with it is, certainly from my perspective, playing TTRPGs is the resource management side of things. There's just a particular ecosystem within the basin. So the weather is very extreme within the basin. So you're managing, whether you're dealing with storms or very, very, inclement weather that's hot or cold or windy. You're managing water resources, you're managing food resources. You're coming against other tribes, other creatures. I mean, it's a kind of a survivalist. An element of it certainly is just kind of getting through the days because you have some basic needs and they're not exactly going to be available.
Yeah, it makes a change from the heroic high fantasy style of most settings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But let me ask you a question. I know it was inspired by Mad Max and Dune, but what inspired you to go, okay, I want to write a post-apocalyptic survival setting?
Great question. I've always been a big fan of the genre, whether it's, zombie post-apocalypse or, it's kind of like sci-fi post-apocalypse, or you have like, Fallout kind of vibe of post-apocalypse. And then you get post-apocalypse, which is, where you get these new cultures developing because of the fallout of what happened and things like that. So I've been a big fan of that kind of space for a very, very long time. It's always interesting because you get, in for example, the game of Fallout, you have all this technology that is in kind of look and style, very, 50s, 60s, kind of vibe. But then you're looking, at actually what some of that tech can do, and it's very futuristic. It's things that, we currently don't have in the 21st century and things like that. So I think it's one of those beautiful spaces of playing with technology versus like fantasy and like combining the two in a way that makes sense for the world, but also is something new and different. It's why I've said before, if you put the word punk at the end of something, whether it's steam, diesel, solar, cyber, I don't mind, I'm there. But like you get that in there and I'm down for that kind of setting and that kind of style. So for us, it was just that love of the stuff. I love a quote from Brennan Lee Mulligan where he says, a GM is only as good as the obscure references that they make. And for me, I try and consume as much content as possible, whether that's, movies, TV shows, books, stories, video games, comics. I want to take in as much as possible because it means that I can pull on so much stuff when I'm creating and mash tropes together, come up with new tropes based off of twists of tropes and things like that. And so I think that was a big part of this is we were like, cool, how can we do desert, but put a twist on it, do something different and combine elements of, things like I mentioned Fallout, Jakku in Star Wars, Tatooine in Star Wars, John Carter, all these incredible, legendary, pieces of content that we all freaking love, and just combine elements of all of that together,
Nice. And I mean, one of the places where I really saw the mashup working really well was with the factions you created.
Yeah, so 5 factions. There we go. Oh, nice. Very nice. So yeah, the one on the left, upper left, they're called the Unsettled. And the Unsettled mostly are a derivative of the Dune Fremen. And so Bodhi created a magic system that the Unsettled utilize. It's basically Dust punk, that's a great term. I love that.
Dust punk is sick. Yes, it's a great shout.
Yeah, and so you want to talk about the current?
Yeah, so the Unsettled wield this magic called the Current, which is a state of existence that you are able to enter through inhaling magical crystals, basically. From there, you're able to see the frequency waves that exist within all things. And once you become trained and well practiced, you can actually touch things and manipulate those frequency waves to essentially what would look like to the layman do magical things and manipulate those beings or those objects or, you know, whatever it might be. But it's actually you just kind of working their frequencies, changing their waveforms and altering their existence. So the Unsettled are masters of this, and they simply want to just achieve balance in the basin. They roam the basin just trying to maintain that natural kind of balance. Religiously, they believe in the sun and the moon being the two gods, with then the crystal being the vessel for their kind of power and things like that.
And I found it interesting that you put down that between themselves they don't actually use their voices; they just use sign language.
Yes,
That was an
exactly.
interesting touch.
Thanks. It's one of those where we really wanted to incorporate a level of accessibility as well. So we wanted to teach people the ability to do basic sign language in ASL, and it made a lot of sense to us because I wanted a unique couple of languages, and we have one language that revolves around Morse code, but has been developed into like music. So like dots are like dashes are hums, dots are like chest strikes, and then basically hollowed out dots are like clicks. So there's a whole language that's musical. We then have our sign language, which is Imana, that the Unsettled use. And actually, again, I'm a big continuity person. When it comes to writing, my writing partner, Emily, is the big concept. She's the one that's like, oh my God, it's a crazy thing. And I'm like, okay, I like the idea. How could we fit it into our world and make it make sense, you know, kind of thing. And so with the sign language, I chose American Sign Language because it's a one-handed sign language. It's a sign language that's done predominantly with one hand, which means that as an Unsettled, you can still communicate while also doing your magic and interacting with your other hand. Okay. So it made sense that they would be able to communicate with one hand, do their magic with the other hand. So that's how we got to that point, basically.
I think in that sentence you packed more thought into the world building than I ever did in most of my campaigns.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I think when I run campaigns, you know, I have very much, you know, this kind of worldview in my head, but I'm a very improv GM. Like I'm one that is like, I want to build it as we're going. I want the players to build stuff. I want to often, you know, my prep for a session is a sentence or two, being like, maybe do this, and that kind of thing. But for these books and stuff, and for the way I love to consume good media, is if it makes sense, if there's continuity in the reasons why certain things happen the way they do, and it makes sense. You know, you look at the continuity in the Harry Potter world, where it's like we send owls to send mail, and they're the slowest birds, but we can teleport. So I could just teleport and tell you the thing I want to tell you, but I'm going to send a bird to do it instead, because that makes no sense whatsoever. So that's the type of stuff that I like, making sure that in my worlds there's logic and that we don't break the world laws that exist. Or once we do, it's in a way because we know the world laws exist, and then we can break them.
Nice. Let's see, going back to the factions, the Morse code one, if I'm not mistaken, was the language used by the Doflok, right?
Yes, so the Doflok are these underground creatures that, so when the meteor hit, some people stayed on the surface, some people went underground, and after 500 years, people became the Doflok, essentially, which are these beings that are now blind. They use something called echo-sense, which is essentially like echolocation, to see everything around them and be able to visualize their environment through sound. They're pretty hardy people. They're the biggest population in the basin, even though they're underground and no one knows they exist other than the Kai, but they're the biggest population. And they have a lot of depth in terms of the way they interact. They sing words and songs to each other to tell you how they're feeling, to express their emotions. They're a struggling community because they're struggling to find food at the moment, and that's like a really hard thing that the royal leader is really grappling with, to the point where they're actually not eating their rations and are giving them back to the people. And there's a whole depth to their society that is really amazing, even though they look like scary little like Dobby, Gollum, Schmeagol type creatures. They've got a lot of depth to them. I love Emily specifically loves these guys. These were some of her favorite to make.
I mean, look, depth is one thing that is not lacking in any of the factions, for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and there's 5 of them across the board. We have the Kai, which is the beautifully dressed ones, which are kind of inspired by the Atreides family in Dune. They're also inspired by the people of the capital from Hunger Games, and things like that. And they're these like super regal folk that live in the basin wall, and they don't really come out of the basin wall. They keep to themselves because they've got a farm that they were able to create, and they're in one of the few places where water is getting to them, so they have regular water flow. And all they care about is who is the most trendy and who's the most creative at the time. And oh my goodness, did you see that piece of technology that Peter brought to the banquet the other day? Absolutely exquisite. You know, that kind of energy.
But equally, they do have their knights and some technology that makes them formidable within the basin. So you can't just walk. Yeah, you can't just walk through them.
Yeah,
they do have some tech that will. You know, that is that next level advancement because for whatever reason they've evolved to understand modern technology a little bit.
Yeah, their ancestral path leads back to a group of people who are very technologically savvy, and they developed a bunch of technology using the same crystal that the Unsettled inhale, the same crystal that the Doflok use for sound resonance to like enhance their voices. The Kai use it to power their machines, their robots, their holograms, their technology, their mech suits that some of the knights have, things like that. So they are a formidable foe, but they're not interested in dealing with the people in the basin. They're interested in the latest dance that a Chandler developed the other day. You know, that kind of ridiculousness.
Yeah. The end is not wrong. It looks like something that would be out of League of Legends.
Yeah, Piltover Aristocrat. Yes, I love that. That's such a good call out. Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. That's exactly, again, another vibe. So a lot of your call out is exactly right, because in this image that this lady here, the gold that is all over her was actually specifically taken from Arcane. I know that me and Emily both, as part of our mood board, pulled that in from Arcane. So that's a fantastic call out.
And I think
incredible
Captain Terrain's comment about it being a little bit of a throwback to Tina Turner from the Thunderdome. If you haven't seen that, reach out to see what Tina Turner's wardrobe looked like in the Thunderdome, because it does have aspects of that. So that's a nice call out.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get the feeling that when we get the book, we're going to be playing a lot of sport reference.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Spot the references.
Spot the reference is really, really great. See if you can pull apart all the tropes that I've mashed together.
Okay, now we've definitely got some Mad Max inspired. These are the writers, right?
Yes, so the writers are this super chaotic faction that they stem from the first surface dwellers, and they became this religious fanatic group, basically, that follow what they call the Speed Mother and the Speed State, basically. So they are trying to go as fast as possible to essentially what they believe is reaching like this magical experience, but it's really just incredible endorphins and adrenaline, just like redlining their bodies to places of crazy euphoria. And so they are wild. Their hierarchy is determined by an all-out race around the basin that takes 3 days.
The reference rush,
yes, exactly. Yeah, you absolutely nailed it.
I'm super impressed, Karl, by your knowledge of the lore within the basin. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I went through all the preview booklet because okay, this is nice. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is nice. Yes.
Dude, we super appreciate that. We super appreciate
So the Reverent Rush is just an all or nothing race around the basin to see who is going to be the Rider King for a year.
Yeah.
And the Rider King gets, some privileges of, they're recognized as the leader of the riders, but they also
get more resources.
To build out a bigger crew. The rich get richer, and the poor, try to attain that level, I guess, is the philosophy for the riders. So, and then there's different hierarchy within the riders. There's, all the way up to the Rider King, but all the way down to what we call rider scavengers, those that weren't really cut out to have their own vehicle, which we call bashers. So they're in a more of a survival mode or a support mode, and they're just trying to figure out how to get through a day, basically, in the basin.
No, I love the imagery of these riders, because you mentioned that, for example, they have the blueprints to their machines tattooed all over their bodies.
Yeah. First of all, incredible pull as well, and another incredible one. They have all of their vehicles tattooed on their bodies because for them it's a way to keep it safe. It's a way for them to be able to rebuild their vehicles because they have the blueprints on their bodies. But also it's a super sacred private thing. Like you're not, very few riders are outwardly showing off their tattoos to other riders because designs might be stolen. Exactly like the one wheel halo wheel that we have there, basically. It really comes down to, people want to protect their livelihood, so they tattoo it on themselves.
Yeah, that would be cool. A Paris-Dakar rider race, that would be sick with all creativity in making your vehicles. I love that campaign terrain.
That's exactly the idea. For the Revving Rush.
But thinking about it, I mean, even that suggests even some ideas. Like, for example, if you find the tomb of an ancient rider, then you might get the blueprints on his mummified body.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I love that. That's a super sick. The ability to, if you kill a rider, having the ability to access or build their basher based off their body is a wild thing that I had never thought about. And I think that's really cool. I would love for players to pull something like that off. That would be crazy.
Here's a question. How many Rider Kings on their walls have deceased rider skin just framed?
I love that. I love that concept. That's a great idea. I love that concept.
It's a kind of like Highlander, but instead of picking up the quickening, you're just picking up blueprints.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yes, great reference. Yes. But yeah, the riders are, they're inherently wild. They're chaotic. They have these things called burnings where they essentially just throw bonfires, get bladder drunk, eat lots of meat, and kind of get crazy, dance a lot, shout prayers to the speed mother. So, you can hear them from far away, often in the basin, doing their evening escapades and activities. So they're fun. They're super, super fun to play.
Yeah.
And if anyone... Sorry, go on.
We have 5 bashers included.
Yes, 5 bashers included, and we hopefully we'll get some more into it with some stretch goals. But yeah, we've got 5 vehicles included in the book.
Yeah.
Okay, and just if anyone wants more stuff that's interesting about the raiders, their base is or their capital is a ship graveyard.
Yes, ship graveyard.
Yes, they live in basically because where the meteor crashed into whatever world it is, that essentially used to be a coastal town. So there's the remnants of many ships and stuff that existed here when that meteor crashed. So the ship graveyard is where the original surface dwellers lived and existed, and then the first riders built their bashers out of the scraps in the ship graveyard. So that's how bashers and all of that technology originally came from the ship graveyard.
Yeah, and we have, the bashers have different levels of sophistication, of size. We have parts and stations for each basher. So there's a stretch goal that has one of the bashers that is, we haven't named it yet, but it's basically a war rig. So it's a large, kind of put together, you probably put together 4 or 5 normal-sized bashers to create this war rig.
Yeah, normal-sized basher and 1 monster truck. That's kind of the vibe.
Is it the one in the artwork folder? One sec.
It is. You might have a sketch of it in there. I think it will be. If you don't find it in there, you might find it on the. That's it.
That's it. There you go.
Nice
There's the
one.
war rig.
That's the war rig. Yeah. So it's got a backhoe on the back on the back side of it. That's a chomper, isn't it? On the back as well. So you don't want anything to be scooped into the old mulcher.
Yeah. I love. I just saw in chat someone said there would be a tattoo artist. There you go. A tattoo artist knows quite a lot. Are they revered? So that's a great question. I don't see why in your world that could not be the case. We always had it that they would be tattooing themselves often or having close friends tattoo them, and it would just be a skill that most writers are acquainted with in some way. However, if in your world you wanted to make tattoo artists these revered people because they're able to actually document and maybe their mouths are stitched closed or something like that so that they can never talk about what they've tattooed on people. I don't know, but that's a really great idea. I love that. Yeah. Fantastic idea.
That's metal as hell. But also, Scattered Terrain is also saying the round bike illustration looks like it could be in a Moebius book.
Dude, that's such a huge call out. Moebius is one of the biggest inspirations for this book. Our artist at Art of Caustic, Alex, an incredible artist from Serbia, just smashed out that styling. That's how you get those crystals, all that good stuff. It really is to try and hit that Moebius style. So no, I really appreciate that call out.
And I mean, like Caustic just does all of these images in different styles, and they're all fantastic.
Yes, yeah. He's done 7 different art styles in this book. How crazy is that?
Yeah,
Bro is so talented.
So there's a different art style for each tribe, which will have a different feel in the book, and also a different layout for each tribe in the book as well. So as you turn into the next chapter, this is the Skaras. Mm-hmm. If you turn into that chapter, then you can see there's a lot of influence on the war paint, that mm-hmm. almost blue or aquamarine color. That will be kind of dripped in different aspects of the layout in the book as well. But you want to talk about the Skara?
Skara are they're my personal favorites. I love the Skara because they are just these down to earth people who are just trying to get by. They use the crystal that I mentioned a couple of other times to basically grow their food and grow their crops. However, these are essentially a predominantly female-birthed clan. They're mostly females. Picture the Amazons from like a DC lore is kind of the vibe. And they are the most badass warriors you've ever seen. They use predominantly spear and shield, but others will vary their fighting style up. They create awesome shield wall formations and use like teamwork stuff, but then individually, each of them learn a unique style to their fighting so that when you fight from one to another one, you're never fighting the same style of warrior. And they're just awesome. Their whole hierarchy is determined through one-on-one combat. So if you want to be the chief, you can challenge the chief to fight, but the chief is the strongest, most badass warrior that currently exists. So you're in for a hard day. Is kind of the path there. And yeah, the art style with this, I love the Scar from Primal, great shout out. The art style is meant to be super like rough, that kind of, caveman-ish kind of style. And yeah, dude, they're super, super badass. None of the kids don't have parents, they're brought up by the whole tribe, everybody brings up the kids. At 16, you can train to become a warrior and enter Astrid's trials. There's just layers to these guys that are really, really fun. I love that faction.
A couple of weeks ago, I just released a video about how no one put celebrations and festivals in their settings. Mm-hmm. And here you are now. Here you are then with just the preview. Hold my beer. Here's 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's such an important part of culture. So, when we're talking about, the culture. So, to give you context, we are both American-born. Tom's family are Greek American. My family my mother is English, and Tom is obviously American Greek. And my mother is English German. So we already in our family just have loads of different cultural mix of like my German grandmother would make very different foods for us. She would, communicate in a very different way versus my Greek grandfather who was very passionate and would always speak his mind and was, very, incredibly just charismatic and emotive, exactly. And then we moved to Spain when I was very young, and we grew up in Spain and got to experience a lot of the Spanish culture of living around, in a small, like little barrio, as they call it, which is like the hood, the neighborhood kind of thing, where everyone's doors is open, the old ladies are coming over and are like, here, I brought you some churros, kind of thing. And it's just this beautiful community vibe. And to me, the things that made those moments were like the music that those people listened to, the foods that they consumed and ate, and then like the traditions and celebrations. So, celebrating in Spain like San Juan, which is patron St. John, where everyone goes to the beach, camps, does bonfires, and jumps in the water at midnight to baptize themselves. That's, one that happens all over Spain. So including that for these factions felt almost necessary, because how else do you truly understand people other than how they celebrate, how they come together, how they as a community share that space and that time with one another. So yes, traditions, celebrations was food as well. That's why we included recipes in the book.
I was going to mention that.
We included, my mother is a world-class chef who has cooked for the likes of presidents and celebrities and religious leaders and all manner of stuff, and she very kindly gave us a bit of her time to make some amazing recipes that are relevant to the culture of whichever faction. They're also made to be used with like materials that culture would have available to them, and stuff that you could find in the basin. But these are also recipes you can cook for your actual TTRPG table. So if you want to make, something from the Scaras, then go for it. We've got recipes for you, So that was a big part of baking it in. We really wanted to include that stuff.
And one of the things that I noticed about the whole Scorched Basin campaign kind of thing is like you really went heavy on multimedia. I mean, like you've got, like I mentioned, the food. You've got also a soundtrack, which is composed for this.
Yeah.
A whole lot of voice recordings, which are being released currently on your channel.
Yes.
They're so much fun.
Right. We enjoy having that multimedia experience when we're consuming our entertainment. So music is very important to us. And also just, when you're playing a TTRPG, being able to, some players can do it more easily than others, but being able to envision what that NPC might be able to say, or, what that tribe might sound like. So that started us thinking, how could we express that in a book? So, technology has helped us with this. So there's, QR codes now. So basically, when you come across a tribe or a particular NPC, you'll see a QR code. And you can scan that QR code, and it'll take you to a YouTube playlist. And then you'll see a series of potentially whatever your favorite content creators are. There's a good chance that they may have voiced some of these NPCs in the lore of Scorched Basin. So that was one thing that we thought about. And then with regard to music's a huge part of, capture. I think it's probably up to half of, if you get the music right in a scene, man, you're almost there, with the emotion that you want to capture of the audience. So we thought, well, what would that look like in a book? So we started working with a hugely talented musician that's a recording artist in Nashville, Tennessee, plays, I don't know how many instruments he plays, but it's probably upwards of 10 instruments. And he literally choreographed or composed two original soundtracks that kind of represent the Dune side of the book. One of them does, and the other represents the Mad Max side of the book.
Oh, nice.
But he also then composed, upwards of 2, 3, 4 minute little mini compositions there's 20 of them, isn't there?
There's 20 of them that you can get as an add-on along with any tier, which are these, incredible songs and tracks that he's made that are inspired by Dune and Mad Max. And you've got everything from him wailing on a guitar for 5 minutes all the way through to like crazy synthesizer, like weird, almost that kind of, like desert psychedelia that you get with Dune and their kind of soundtrack. So yeah, he absolutely crushed it. And we just wanted to innovate. We wanted to take something to the next level and kind of push what TTRPG books is generally, and just what they kind of bring to the table. Because everyone's seen, the classic 2-column, flip through the book, page number in the bottom corner, a little bit of watercolor splash, all that kind of stuff. And we just wanted to, keep it comfortable, keep it recognizable, but give people something new, something that they kind of hadn't experienced before. Quickly to just answer the question that disappeared just before this one. Thank you for the kind words. Questboard, what is the Hattie Builder? The Hattie Builder is a vehicle building system that we have created. So you can basically build your very own custom airships currently on the Hattie Builder using 300 different parts and stations that you can choose and select to build an airship for your party, for example, or as a GM as for NPCs. And then at the end of it, you can export a PDF stat block to use at your tables. And it works in conjunction with Sky Zephyrs, our first book, but also a lot of the system agnostic mechanics that you'll see in Scorched Basin also apply to it, because we developed those mechanics from Sky Zephyrs, and we plan to add our land vehicles to the Hattie Builder post this Kickstarter.
So down the road, you'll be able to build your own bashers and custom design them and build your own war rig and oneer or whatever size basher you want to build for the table, and then be able to download a system agnostic stat block for that. So that's pretty cool. We're pretty excited. And within the Kickstarter, I think every tier will offer you a whether it's a month free access to the builder up to a lifetime subscription of the builder as the tiers go up in the Kickstarter campaign. So we're really proud of that. That builder has been it's been there from the beginning. We keep evolving it. We keep adding new fully statted vehicles once a month. So if you're part of our builder membership, you are going to get in your email inbox at the first of the month, you're going to get a new vehicle that has been designed by Emily and statted out by Bodhi and Emily. And so that's great. You have a little treat every year or every month that comes through the builder as well, along with you just going in there and tinkering with it as much as you'd like.
They also have an airship. Yeah, that would be Sky Zephyrs. Is it Sky Zephyrs or the Wandering Tavern? Because
kind of both.
Well, kind of both, because the Wandering Tavern is a giant airship technically. So
it's in there as well.
Yeah. So, and the Wandering Tavern is actually originally in Sky Zephyrs. It was one of the big airships that we provided. But yeah, we have an airship supplement called Sky Zephyrs, which we designed for Dungeons and Dragons, where you have mechanics to basically do airship combat, three-dimensional airship combat on a two-dimensional plane with fully customizable vehicles. That's basically.
We just wanted to do that.
Yeah, that was just me doing that because I couldn't find the mechanics anywhere else. So that truly was just out of necessity.
Okay, but also, since I know that a lot of people here are really into miniatures, I just wanted to show them this.
Yes. Oh, please. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes, we love that one.
So that is the work of one of our miniature artists. His name is Gloomy Kid. And he is, if you go to My Mini Factory, he's one of the top artists on there. And a lot of the stuff that he builds is without artwork. So he will just start building a model, free form, so to speak. And so this has a lot of his, we gave him, this one we did give him a reference image, but a lot, the position of the rider, for instance, the different little bits and pieces on the basher, that's all him just letting his imagination run.
Nice.
So yeah, it's great. And I think there's also
there's a Unsettled doing some sand bendings, doing some sand manipulations. You have a rider hanging out here. We've also got a one wheel that was made by another STL artist called Eduardo from Magic Lore Studios. And that's the one wheel you showed earlier. We have that as an STL. And we are also hopefully going to get that war rig made as an STL. And we also have Kai Knights as STLs as well.
Question from Questboard: will there be physical miniatures for those who don't have 3D printers? Well, what we have, as far as trying to produce 3D printed miniatures, it would probably be unrealistic for us to do that across however many hundreds of backers we have. But I think with the STL, you can go to any website platform that allows you the ability to give them the STL. They'll print it for you and they'll send it out to you. I think that is an option for sure.
Yeah.
And I think in the future, we have considered adding physical STLs to a Kickstarter. There's an element of scale for that.
Yeah.
That you have to navigate, but it's something that we have talked about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a question of kidnapping someone who knows how to use a 3D printer.
yeah, it's not a problem, right? What's the problem?
We have a question from Dungeon Mate in here. What happens when clans intermix?
Great question. It's a really, really great question. So there's currently in the Scorched Basin's lore, there's something called the Harmony Accords in place, which are essentially this agreement that has been brought to the table by the Kai saying, look, we all need the crystal. Let's each not fight over it, because that's what was happening for a while, was these wars were breaking out. And they're like, let's not fight about it. We'll split the crystal evenly. We'll protect it, and let's also have tentative peace. You guys can get, we can get in fights if we need to, but then we have to come and politically discuss these battles afterwards. And we have to come to terms of what are punishments, what are, things like that. So the answer is currently there is freedom of travel across the basin. And, if you're an unsettled, traveling in a group of unsettled and a couple of riders go past, you might be able to talk to them. You might not. They might also bother you. They might come and stop you and cause some trouble. Who knows? In the same way that any other world would. But there's also people who are, going across and working with different factions and learning stuff. Like there's a Kai princess that is currently traveling around the basin in the timeline that you would play. And she's trying to pick up information about the basin and learn about the plants and the creatures and things. So if you interact with her and you're a rider, then, she's probably not going to care. She'd probably learn more about you and want to learn about you rather than have any sort of conflict with you whatsoever. So there's instances where this basin is like a small push away from all-out resource war. And your adventure could very much be, how do you align certain factions? How do you fight for the resources? That could be the adventure. Or it could very much be, how do you continue to broker peace? How do we continue to maintain this peace and try and come up with some sort of prosperity for everybody and the ability for everybody here to live more in harmony? Maybe we build a city in the center, and similar to, like Avatar, where you have Aang and Zuko build Republic City for Korra, it could be something along those kinds of lines. So whatever adventure you want to play, whether it's all-out chaotic war or it could be solar punk peace, it's entirely up to you what you run in the space. But you can definitely have factions mixed.
And there are some historical sort of grievances, but also some historical synergies. So some factions tend to want to work a little bit more together, and other factions are mortal enemies. Now, again, as Bodhi said, there's exceptions in there, individual exceptions in there, but certainly there's some history you can draw on.
And this is the other thing. It all stems back to, like, all of these factions started as the surface dwellers and the subsurface dwellers, essentially, the people who lived underground. The people who live underground eventually some of them came back to the surface and made the unsettled. The people who stayed on the top became the Kai and the riders. The Kai then became the Skara, separated from them and became the Skara. So everybody links, everyone has ancestors, like everybody goes back to the original two guys that kind of were on the surface originally. And so it is very much something that they're all linked, and they all have something to give and take from each other. The unsettled and the Skara are linked together because the unsettled have crystal, the Skara need it, but the Skara are incredible warriors and can help fight the riders. The riders are linked with the Kai because the Kai don't have access to go out in the basin and get crystal and make hydro suits and collect these resources, where the riders are always driving around collecting resources. So why not give them the resources and take some food and water back for yourself? So it is this big, you know, everybody needs something from everybody. So yeah, it definitely works and is good fun when you intermingle those factions a lot, actually.
Okay. It seems that Questborn has decided to pick up Scorched Basin.
Oh, dude, we
Questboard.
super appreciate that quest board. Like, seriously, every single person who, you know, helps us, whether it's been someone from Sky Zephyrs or Wandering Tavern or Scorched Basin, you know, every person that supports Homie and the Dude not only supports, you know, I hope you went through Karl's link so that Karl can, you know, because we're splitting whatever Karl brings in with him. So if you love Karl, go through his link and back, because he'll get a half of whatever he brings in, which is awesome. You know, it means you're supporting a creator that you love. But also, you know, without you guys, we currently wouldn't be here. Homie and the Dude wouldn't exist without people like you, Quest. So thank you for taking the time. It means a lot. Seriously.
Yeah, I want to talk about your the marketing campaign that you went through, because, hey, first of all, the profit split that you were going through is, I'm going to be honest, you're the first people that I did an affiliate agreement with. So
amazing. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
glad, dude. We're super glad.
yeah, but from what I understand, 50% is like way above what you would anyone else would offer. And second one,
Yes.
I think you just went ahead and said, okay, no Facebook advertising, no YouTube advertising, no Google ads or whatever. Just go straight to the tabletop RPG community and work with them.
Yeah,
So-
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, it was a conscious decision. We came out of our first Kickstarter having spent money on Facebook ads mostly, and they work. You know, here's the thing. Other publishers spend a lot of money on Facebook ads, and the reason is because they work. But there's also an element of, for us at least, do we want to be spending money, giving the TTRPG community money to Facebook when we're seeing TTRPG community creators struggling? You know, they're putting a lot of time in their channels. They're putting a lot of time and thought into providing content for the community to consume. Community consummation that we really enjoy. Like we love, you know, going onto YouTube and just watching the wide variety of stuff that's being created out there. So that certainly in different elements of the community was suffering. So we thought, is there a way that we can reinvest in the community, fully reinvest in the community? So we decided one thing we could do is pull all of our money out of Facebook, out of YouTube, out of Google. So all that budget, can we reinvest that into the community? And we thought, well, maybe we give the community, like you said, Karl, an outrageous, I don't know if it's ever been done before, basically a split. So whatever comes into the Kickstarter is going to be split with whatever creator that audience member wanted to go through. So that was, I think, pretty revolutionary. Whether it ultimately is what we do going forward, I think what we can say safely is whatever we do going forward, we're always going to look at the community first and redistribute as much as we can back to the community with every project that we do.
This whole community approach was very much a gamble for us. We wanted to see whether it would work, because we want to help the community as much as possible and give back to people who, you know, for anyone who's been around since we kind of got into the space, there was an old time before Twitter got taken over by Elon Musk, where the D&D space was just this stunning, beautiful community on Twitter that was like wholesome, loving, you know, really, really kind. And people gave us a chance and brought us into the space and taught us the way and the path and how to treat other people in the space and things like that. And without those people, we wouldn't be here again, you know, so we want to try and do that and give back to people and be able to provide something to the community. And so, you know, this time we've tried, everything into, you know, like partnering with the community, doing the 50-50 split. Next time, we know, you know, we might give percentage of ad revenue. We might try and give, you know, a percentage of, you know, whatever we can. We're trying to just try different methods and see which one gives the most back to the community. Mm-hmm. And when we find the one that does that the most, we're gonna drill for gold there to ensure that we can give so much to, you know, the people who make this space. Look, dude, I'm on YouTube every other day because I know, oh, Zach the Bold's going to be uploading his podcast and I want to hear him rant. D&D Shorts is going to be doing an incredible video. You know, Karl's going to be posting some amazing content. You know, it's one of those things of like, we should be out here supporting those people and giving those people love. Like, I understand that sometimes we get, and like the D&D space is bad for this in terms of like comments of someone will be like, oh, I use this spell and this spell and this spell, and then the comments will be like, you idiot, that doesn't work. How dare you try and combo spells? And we need to just remember that if you're watching the content, you know, support these people, give them some love, like the stuff, share it, follow it, engage with the algorithm, help the people that you like. It takes a couple of seconds. Geez, you're not having to go downtown and get a bloody record or something. You know, you're sat in front of your computer on your phone, and it takes a second to move your thumb. What are we doing, people? You know. So yeah, just support the community. That's what we want to do, because we are the community. We started in here as part of this space, and yeah, we just want to help.
That's I mean, you're definitely part of the community for sure, because you've been helping people around and you know, promoting people and stuff. So that's and just the thought that you're actually helping it in this way is really solid, in my opinion.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate you. And thank you for having us on and giving us the time of day and being someone who cares about what we do, because, you know, we are just two jabronis from, you know, England who are trying to create stuff that other people like, and for you to take the time out of your day to come and talk to us and just give us some love.
Seriously, I mean,
it means the world.
Guys, you didn't just come up with a fantastic system. You've also brought together, again, artists, musicians, a whole bunch of random people, and smooshed it together into something wonderful.
Thanks,
man.
Thanks.
Plus, you also designed this, which is I think the best thing ever.
Thank you. That is one of my. So I designed this item myself, actually. That's the Wailing Flame Spitter. It's a guitar / axe / flamethrower. And
that's a lot of slashes.
Yeah, exactly. It might be one too many slashes. I might have gone just a step too far. But the idea is, yeah, that is something that a rider might carry on them, and they can, you know, blast people with fire. They can do a face melting solo is one of the abilities, and you can also just wield it like a weapon and just swing it about if you need to. So it's a fun one. It's a super fun one. Dungeon Matron saying, do you have any plans to expand to a different genre? Well, so we've already done, you know, Studio Ghibli Flying City. We've done Mad Max and Dune and desert stuff. We're honestly not sure what the next one's going to be. We want to choose, you know, something that would be a fun IP for people to enjoy, something that would apply to lots of people, really interested in. I think with Mad Max and Dune, we learned compared to Studio Ghibli, which... Oh?
No, I think you froze or something. Your video froze or something. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yes,
okay.
I can see you. Yeah, we're back. We're all back. But yeah, it's just one of those ones where Mad Max and Dune, we realized, isn't as beloved by the people as Studio Ghibli, and so we just want to make sure that we're creating stuff that people really, really are interested, that the community really, really loves. So I'm not sure what we're going to make next.
Dungeon Matron, what would you like to see?
Yeah, great question. What would you like to see in this
Or
space?
just anyone in the chat, check out what when you think of IP out there, what things resonate for you that you'd be like, wow, that would be cool if it's been done, but it needs to be done a little bit better, or if it's never been done before, that type of thing.
Yeah.
We're always open to hearing and listening to what the community wants, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So, while the chat deliberates, question. You went system agnostic for this one. What was the reasoning behind it?
So, fantastic question, by the way. When the OGL crisis happened with D&D, we were writing Sky Zephyrs, and we have played D&D almost Straight to the tentacles? Damn, guys! Golly! Wild. I love it. I completely lost my train of thought.
No, OGL,
System agnostic, yes. So we were a D&D family. We played D&D almost unanimously before the OGL stuff happened. The OGL stuff happened, and as third-party creators, we felt betrayed, we felt hurt, we felt not listened to. It was just a lot of pain. And so we started trying a bunch of other systems. We played, Avatar Legends, we played Morkborg, Orbital Blues, Tales from the Loop, all these different systems, Cthulhu, Daggerheart, we've covered, a good bunch at this point. And honestly, we've played in lots of D&D games since then, but I have never run a D&D game since that last time we played D&D when the OGL happened. So we came to a place where we were like, we want to make books that we could playing the systems that we love that aren't just D&D anymore. And that's something that you got to think about, because D&D is the titan in the space. They own the market share, so putting the word D&D or Dungeons & Dragons or 5e 2024 on your product does increase sales an amount, just because of how that works. But, our favorite system that we currently play that isn't our homebrew system that we've built is, we love Orbital Blues. And I want to play Scorched Basin using Orbital Blues as my system of choice. So I needed to design a system that allowed us to play Orbital Blues in the Scorched Basin, and that meant coming up with a system agnostic language that we're hoping to release with our own little license for it that people can use completely for free to write their own book. So if anyone else wanted to make a system agnostic book, they could follow our writing style and our kind of language that we use and incorporate it in their own books. We want to make sure that that this is just as accessible for everyone. Like if you love Cthulhu, for example, as we found out, apparently a lot of people in your chat do. If you like, Cthulhu and Eldritch stuff, then yeah, you can make Scorched Basin exactly that. Actually, Zach the Bold's expansion for Scorched Basin is a Eldritchy, mystery cult kind of situation going on. So that's exactly that same thing in Scorched Basin. So why not run Cthulhu in Scorched Basin and add your, this sanity mechanic to it? And that could be tied to not only the stuff that you're encountering, but maybe the weather. The dehydration is also affecting your sanity and things like that. So there's layers that you can add to this by just changing the system that you play it in as well.
Nice. I mean, the system agnostic language that you've used, again, I went through the review material and I did some conversions for Wasted World. Super easy to follow.
Oh,
dude, that's awesome.
That's awesome, man.
So literally, converting a character took me like 5 minutes. It's just a question of mapping the numbers. So this is high, this is low. Okay, easy, done.
Yeah, exactly. The range band system that I use is exactly designed for that because it's fully interpretable. And we say that GMs can so there's two ways to play our system agnostic. Number one is you convert before your sessions. So if you want to use like an NPC stat block or a mechanic, you could go in and convert that to your system before the game. Again, won't take you very long, easy peasy to do. Or a lot of the mechanics are pretty interpretable in the moment where you could, during live play, if you're attacking someone with an NPC and it says that their dagger has a range of melee to very short range, because you can throw it a very short distance, and it deals a very low amount of damage, then okay, D&D, if it's melee to very short amount of range, that's like 5 to 20 feet in range, and it's a very low amount of damage, so that's like a D4. Easy peasy. And you can interpret that on the fly, basically. So I very much wanted to bring that simplicity in, because as a GM, I also don't want to have to be I hate maths. I'm not a maths person. Even though I game design, I hate maths. So I very much want to minimize that as much as possible.
Totally with you on that one.
Yeah. Sounds like starved together, everything has an effect on your sanity. Yeah. 100%. Everything has an effect on your sanity. Yeah, you could definitely make dehydration and fatigue, which come from lack of eating and stuff in the basin, part of the sanity mechanic. Yeah, malnutrition, exactly. That very easily could work. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, even the constant dread of, hey, is there going to be a thunderstorm or a torrential downpour or a massive wall of sand coming over this way? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing, because we wanted to make, I think this is a thing that, so this is such a random reference, but I remember when Battlefield, I think it was Battlefield 3/Battlefield 4 came out on, like for computer gaming. And they included Levolution, as they called it, which was you could basically blow up a building and then that building would remain blowed up for the rest of the duration of the game. You could terraform and change the terrain as you're kind of going, and it becomes another aspect to the game. To me, that, as a kid, blew my mind, and then as an adult, I now use that in my games of TTRPG massively. If someone does a fireball and we're near a building, you're destroying some of this village. Like you're killing people and trapping them inside buildings because you're setting off an explosion. What do you expect, kind of thing? And so we wanted to make the weather and the terrain a factor to contend with as players. We wanted this to be almost like another player at the table, that you are doing, it's like, cool, we need to get from the unsettled campment at the eastern source, and we need to get to the central source for a meeting of the Harmony Accord. That is, 500 miles from one side to the other to that place. So we've got to do this crossing. That means we need enough resources, enough, whether it's crystal to be able to inhale so that we don't have to eat, or food, or, water, things like that. It might be a case of, cool, we need the right gear to make sure we don't get sunstroke or get fatigue or encounter, whatever it might be, a sandstorm or things like that. So we want it to feel like the world is alive and you're fighting the world to stay alive. People sorting non-regulated strength crystal, what do you expect? Exactly. Well, exactly. Which is why we have the blue sickness. So even though you inhale the crystal and become a wave manipulator and you get this awesome power, if you do it for too long, you get something called the blue sickness, which you will eventually die from. Nothing can cure the blue sickness. And your character will eventually die from that blue sickness if they survive all the other tribulations of their life. So yes.
Sandworms.
Yes, sandworms, riders, sandstorms, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Campaign Terrain. When does crystal reliance become crystal addiction?
That's a great question. When does, so the answer is, I think, pretty quickly. I think the answer is, so the unsettled, they don't eat and they don't need to eat, sleep, or drink, basically. The crystal sustains them, but to sustain that ability to not eat, drink, or sleep, you need to be inhaling crystal regularly. So yeah, dude, it's very much an addiction thing. It's very much, a hard thing for these people that they're going through, but it's a religious thing. It's not just like an addiction thing. It's a religious experience. It's a ritual for them. There's layers of depth to it, in the same way that you might see, like, a classic one is, if you go to China, you will see Zen Buddhists will often light 3 incense sticks, and they will then light the incense sticks, bow, pray, do a couple of prayers as they bow and they touch their head down. Then they'll stand up and they'll pass the smoke over themselves to rid anything from themselves, and then they'll plant that incense in whatever burner or wherever it might be, at a temple or on a mountain or something like that. That's just a ritual thing that they do. Are they addicted because they do it all the time? I mean, I guess you could say so, 100%. But it's a ritualistic practice that they go through.
I think the unsettled have a saying.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation.
Including moderation. Yeah. I think that's exactly right.
Also had some other questions about the... Yeah, it's exactly the spice from Dune.
Yes, exactly. Spice from Dune. Nailed it. Thanks.
I had questions about the other rules, because you mentioned you have system agnostic vehicle combat rules and system agnostic alchemy rules.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so would you want to elaborate a bit more on those, if you can?
Yes, of course. Yeah, dude, I would be delighted to. So we have created a bunch of new mechanics that are things that you can tack onto your system either as a GM or as player. So for players, we have a new species for them to play. We have 3 new player options that are like things that they can add to their character sheet and enhance their character sheet. As well as then we also have a social ranking system that the Kai use that you could also give to your players. But we also have this magic system that the Unsettled use, which is system agnostic. We have the land vehicle mechanics that you mentioned, which are a simplified, more refined version of Sky Zephyrs, but made system agnostic for land vehicles. And then we also have, as you mentioned, this alchemy system, which we're super hyped about. Also, Emily's child, Emily absolutely loves our alchemy system. We call our chapter Flora and Fauna. Of where you can find stuff. You have the creatures that you can encounter, but then you have the plant life that you can find here. And under each plant, it tells you a bit about what they look like and then some of their effects. And then from there, we have a way for you to combine different plants in this alchemy kind of process to then create potions and serums and different things that can enhance you as a character, like solve you not being, again, we talked about resource management. You can get certain potions that mean that you don't need to drink water for X amount of time. So having 2 of those instead of gallons of water is going to be more economical to get it across the basin. So having someone who knows their alchemy would probably be very helpful in the basin and would be something that players might want to investigate. But yes, that's exactly the type of thing we wanted to go into. And again, modularize it. You could take the alchemy system away from the Scorched Basin and put it into a high fantasy setting and it would work exactly the same. Same with the magic system, same with the land vehicles. You know, all of it works outside of the Scorched Basin as well as in the Scorched Basin.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, like I was especially interested in the alchemy system because that's something I could. Yep, I'm going to use this here, and here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you've ever played the Elder Scrolls of Skyrim, they have a really awesome alchemy system in that where you can pick a plant and as you use it and you test it with things, you start understanding what the plant is. So for some players, it might be like, GM. My whole character's thing is I quickly mix things to make potions that I then, you know, almost like a witcher on the fly, have these things that I can drink and do, basically. Or you could be, your whole character's personality could be around, I collect plants, I want to test these plants. GM, in downtime, I'm testing these new plants that I found so I can work out what they do and things. It's entirely up to your method of play, but we allow for, you know, the simple stuff of like, GM's like, what do you want to do before you go on the heist? I want to make this serum. Cool. You find those things, you do it. Easy. Or it could be, we're going to now spend the next 2.5 hours of our campaign searching for a freaking plant. That's entirely up to you and your GM's pacing, I guess.
Nice.
And you may run into some creatures while you're trying to find that plant.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, especially something that only grows outside of a Dune Eater nest or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right outside the nest.
Yeah. You want to be careful with that for sure. Perhaps now Alchemist has developed a formula that enhances a feature of the crystal, but it ends up causing a deadly disease later. Yeah, perfect. Exactly. There you go. That's a great. This is the type of thing, and look at the inspiration that you guys are coming up with already. That's exactly what we were hoping for. The Scorched Basin, we've given you the framework. We've given you, as they say in Pirates of the Caribbean, the guidelines, you know, to this place. Make it whatever you want. Make it your version of the Scorched Basin. We've just given you the foundation. Build your house. Do it your way. That's what's important, you know.
Speaking of that, were there any moments from your games where you were running Scorched Basin that you remember especially fondly? Yes. So we say on our pre-launch page, we had a line which was many player characters were killed in the playtesting of this setting. And I, as a GM, I don't try and kill my players. I very much don't. I often try and, like, I don't want to do it because it often feels mean and things like that. But I don't avoid it either as a GM. I know that it's pivotal to some stories and things like that. So I don't know, like I crushed Tom with a stone in the slot canyons once, which was pretty funny. He
had this
Funny to who, but I'm not sure.
it was the table very much enjoyed it and had a good laugh. We had an awesome, so there's a, in the Skara, to become a warrior in the Skara, you have to go through something called Astrid's Trials. And Astrid's Trials are a series of events that happen in front of the whole tribe where you partake to show skill, strength, and courage, basically. The first one is like this assault course race that you have to do. The second one is like one-on-one fist fighting. And the third one is you and a team of other kids basically have to fight a creature together. So I think like Percy Jackson, that's like a very comparable, Camp Half-Blood kind of vibe. And we ran the Astrid's Trials, and I really, really enjoyed running Astrid's Trials. It was a real good laugh.
It was a good opportunity for us to, I think there was a balance between wanting to succeed as an individual PC, but also at times needing to be strategic about who you were going to team up with. So PCs, you wanted to win Astrid's Trials, because if you win Astrid's Trials, you become a Scar Warrior. And that's really the hope for any adolescent growing up as a Scar. But to win, at times, you have to combine forces. I'm not sure if you've seen in Spain, they have this event where it's a pole, and they put.
You got to explain, it's before La Tomatina, which is the big tomato throwing festival in Spain, where they have a big food fight in the streets. Yeah,
so before the festival, they have this pole that's probably about, I don't know, maybe 50 feet high, something like that. And they basically put pig's fat, I think, all over the pole. And they put a prize at the top. It's usually a jamon leg, a leg of ham, right up there. So it's a nice prize, a full,
like it's worth,
several hundred euros.
Yeah, hundreds of euros for a ham leg, realistically.
And the only thing you have to do is just get up there first. Well, you find initially that you keep slipping down, right? So you start to see people starting to strategize, working together, building little pyramids of people so that they can, and pulling off the pig fat and that type of thing. And eventually, they keep getting closer and closer and closer, working as teams. But eventually, the last person that kind of wins ultimately makes a break for the top and breaks away from the others. And that's kind of what Astrid's Trials is like. It's working together until you can make a break and win the trials yourself. So it's a fun little like strategy game as well.
Yeah, and that it was just really great as well to use some of our shield wall mechanics, use some of our there was some really, really great play from the party in terms of RPing these young Skara people, some who are nervous, some who are excited, some who want to be warriors, some who are here because they feel like they have to be and they actually just want to be a baker, and it just...
Their parents are making them.
Yeah, and we had a couple of you playing Unsettles who had current manipulation abilities, and we included some of that. It was just really good fun. I think that's the thing is we create stuff that we want to play and that we find fun at our table. So yeah, that's really, really important to us. To answer Dungeon Matron's question, are there deities? Such an awesome question. Such an awesome question. One of my favorites because I think it's a really, really important question for a lot of fantasy. The answer is there's many different deities in our basin, actually. So the Unsettled worship the sun and the moon because they feel that they're like the consistence, they're the natural balance, they're the light and the darkness, they're the day and the night, they're the cold and the warmth, all of this stuff. So the Unsettled revere the sun and moon, or as they call them, Soa and Luca. And they also revere the crystal. They worship the crystal because they believe that was the god's gift to them. Them inhaling it is God's gift to them as a group of people. The riders, their god is not a god and more is an essence. It's speed. It's going as fast as you can. It's this speed state. It's this existence of feeling euphoria from going so fast. And they do believe that there's a female entity that exists when you start going at a certain speed called the Speed Mother, who is basically this voice that you hear when you start entering the speed state. You start hearing this woman calling you to death, basically calling you to go faster, urging you to just keep going and just pulling you faster and faster. So there's that. And then finally, the Doflok, the people that live underground, there's something called the Celestial Shard. So they have, when the meteor hit, some of it went underground, some of it stayed above the ground. The bit that went underground is what the Doflok worship, basically. They worship this crystal that resonates the frequencies that they use to speak. It's also how the composer, their leader, informs them about things. And their whole city is built around this crystal that essentially is where the water source is, where the food is, and just all this kind of gorgeous, gorgeous space there. And so, yes, there is a bunch of different entities and deities that exist depending on the group of people that you're kind of encountering, essentially.
I think there was a picture of that underground city somewhere.
The underground, yes, you had it in the chapter art. Go to chapter art again. So lower, right down at the bottom.
That's not the underground citadel, but that's just an example of the Doflok doing their carving the walls like they do, and then using the crystal there as sound frequency you can see at the bottom and doing all of that. Yeah, those guys are awesome. They're so weird. They're so weird, dude. Such creepy ass little things, and I love them so much.
Yeah, I mean, I like the concept that it's basically a society that's based on sound and feel rather than sight. It's such a different mindset to what most of us work with every day.
Yeah, and even describing things for the Doflok, you have to be like, if you imagine, we talk about there was a line where we were writing voice lines for someone, and I was writing a line as one of the characters, and I was like, oh, and this person looks really great, and I was like, wait, the Doflok can't see anybody. That doesn't work, and it is one of those where it does make you have to reshift, and though we kind of tee it up to be like, in-game, pretend that they can see using this echo sense, that every noise echoes out waves that they can basically hear. So that's kind of how they see the same as everyone else. I like to imagine, this is, again, a really wild reference. Two references that kind of envision it perfectly. Toph in Avatar The Last Airbender, when she is stomping and you see those waves and it goes black and white, exactly like that. Or in the original Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, when he's in the rain and the rain is falling, and you get to see what it looks like from his perspective as the rain is falling on Elektra, the girl at the time. And that's exactly the kind of way we envision the echo sense that the Doflok have.
Yeah. Still, even if you factor that in, then you still have to remember, okay, you cannot give this player color descriptions, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It becomes, like you said, a straight up, it's a gray palette, just you're seeing the objects and the things that are around you, not the color or the look or those things, but you would also get the smells and the feeling, basically. Thank you for the dude, as I said, I got them obscure references, dude. I'm all over the place. I'm everywhere, Questboard. I'm everywhere.
Okay, so let's see what else. I think we're past the hour and coming up almost 1 hour 20. So probably I should let you get some rest. I think you've been.
Hey, no, dude, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been
same. I mean, I'm absolutely loving this. How many podcasts have you been on today?
This is our third one.
This is our third time. Now, honestly, it's always a pleasure to talk to people because everyone has different questions and everyone has things that they want to know about that are really interesting and little insights that, and you give me a chance to talk about nerd shit that I love, dude. I'm such a nerd for my own worlds. I can't even, and all GMs are really, all we want to do is, you have your world lore book that you never get to show anyone. But in the back of your mind, and you're like, oh, all these cool things that no players are ever going to find because they're just never going to go to these places. But it's there for you. So you asking me questions allows me to talk about all that great stuff.
Okay, the end has another reference for the echolocation thing.
Yes, exactly. Dude, exactly. That's, again, a great reference. And shout out to Matrix 1, one of the best movies ever made. Dear God, the Wachowski twins crushed it with the Matrix movies. Dear God.
So ahead of their time.
So ahead. And
Totally.
dude, V for Vendetta as well. Oh my God. Incredible work. This has been enlightening and sounding, I suppose. Great
Nice
stuff.
one.
Thank you, Campaign Train. Appreciate it. And guys, thank you for being such an active part of this conversation. Thanks for chiming in and giving us a little bit of love. Please, share Karl's stuff out. Please, get, like I was saying earlier, it takes a couple of seconds to boost the algorithm and help people and do all that good stuff. So help Karl out, share the stuff, follow, subscribe, give your left leg, send in your grandma, whatever you need to do to support.
I'm good with grandmas, thank you. Do not send me.
You've got enough for now. You got enough for now.
Okay, so I shared out the link to your website. Is there anywhere else where people can find you, reach out to you, or?
Yeah, totally. Go for it.
The website is a good hub for us, so you can find a link to our Discord there. You can find a link to the Kickstarter there as well. There's a way that you can contact us through email as well, so that's a good spot for us. That kind of distributes you. There's a link to watching some of our video content as well there. So all of that good. We also have a lineup of our team. You can see who we are. So it's Bodhi and I, and then our immediate team around there as well. So yeah, that's a good spot. And then, if you did like what you heard today, if you're curious about it, head on over to the Kickstarter. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Go through Karl's link. Go through Karl's link and support Karl, guys. You're here watching his content. Support him. That's what's up.
Guys, thank you so much. This has been talking to you has been super fun, and that was some good information there and great ideas.
Thank you.
Appreciate it,
dude, we appreciate you a lot. And thank you
doing
for
what you do,
amazing
man.
questions. Yeah, you're awesome, man. And I love your what they call is bedside manner. You're very you're very cordial. You're very you're so calm. You're such a calm presence, dude. I can't tell you how relaxed I'm feeling. The last podcast was a little bit more and you're so calm. I feel so great. I'm gonna go relax after this.
I'm gonna just go sit into Karl's lap and
exactly. Yes. Whisper sweet nothings in my ear. Tell me bedtime stories. Yeah, that's the vibe. I'm loving it.
And I just want to shout you out, Karl, for the research that you did. It is hugely impressive to see how much you dug into our project, and it's really we're just grateful that you took that interest in it.
That was absolutely no effort. I mean, it's super easy to read. It's super easy, super well written. It's just I enjoyed reading it.
Amazing, dude. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, and it's been a pleasure talking.
Same. Okay, so next Wednesday I'll be throwing out a video about converting the Scorched Basin to Easy D6 for play. So you guys might look out for that. And in the meantime, gentlemen, thank you again, and have a great night, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.